Only 5 Red John suspects remain. Now one of them
I do like the idea of working with you again, Teresa.
is joining their team.
We should be investigating him, not letting him join our investigation.
There's a comeuppance headed your way.
I need SAC PD fast as I can.
I need medical assistance immediately.
Red John.
Patrick Jane sees beyond everything in The Mentalist, Wednesday at 8 p.m. on CCM TV6.
The Crazy Ones, Tuesday night at 8, exclusively on CCN TV6. Boom, bing, boom.
I want infrastructure. On election day, protect your future. On election day,
Welcome back to TV6's coverage of the St. Joseph by-election. Terrence Deyalsingh moving from the upper house to the lower house, leaving the Senate benches and joining the ranks of Member of Parliament. We're just going to take a comparative look at what this evening's results look like when they match up to what happened in 2010. Between the 3 candidates that polled the most votes in this election, we have, first of all, between the leader and the runner-up, about a 500 vote difference at this point in time. Add up what the PNM, the UNC and the ILP took, we're looking at about 12 to 13,000 votes between the 3. If we check back at 2010 and the going back to 2010, we check back between the 2-horse race that was between PNM's Kennedy Swarat-Singh and the UNC's Herbert Volney. You see that the PNM was behind by just about 3,000 votes, right behind Herbert Volney, who won that seat, eventually giving it up in September and triggering this by-election, which brought us to this place today. So a 3,000 vote margin. Much closer here in this 3-party race between the PNM, Aline, and the UNC's Aline and the ILP's Omlala. Martin?
Thank you, Fane. And Winford, from the comments we heard from Jabari as to what occurred at the ILP headquarters and the explanations given by Mr. Warner, would it be a case of Mr. Warner basically trying to explain to the nation that the ILP is still green in the business?
Yes, I suppose he has come down to earth. He was in a massive hype, as you know. He was riding the winds of a great momentum. He began to believe things that to the rest of us who were not involved in that process seemed impossible, seemed too dreamy for comfort. And so what the 2 defeats have shown him now is that, politics is a hard business. Politics is a hard business, and the party has to really grow in the organic way that we expect parties to grow. And Mary was talking about in an earlier submission. I think he has had a dose of reality come to him, which he is embracing.
Okay, and Mary, would you say that Warner Mania has come to an end?
I don't think there ever was Warner Mania, like there was Kamala Mania in 2010. I don't think there was Warner Mania. I think there was fed-upness of the people, if there is such a word, and they had to move to something, and this opportunity was grasped by Warner to start his party, and people gravitated to his party. And as I said earlier, that party could be groomed into a strong force if properly managed. So I think he's right. It's 4 months old. He's coming out at the end of the year with his election, his constitution, which I asked for earlier in the debate, in the discussion here. So we'll wait and see what that brings. Whether it will be of substance is what we will be waiting to examine and find out. But also I think we have to look at the turnout in this election. In the 2010 election, we had a 69% turnout of voters, and we saw 10,000 going to the UNC and 7,000 going to the PNM. And this time we've only had a 53% turnout. So hence the difference. The UNC did not get. So is it a matter again of those persons who did not turn out, the 16% are just totally fed up UNC and they're sitting on the sidelines waiting for where to move their vote to? So because you can't say they're splitting the vote. That's a stupid attitude to take. And any UNCer of 2010 to hear that would say, is that what my vote is? It's not mine. and therefore they will not vote. And that, I think, is part of what happened to that 13%. They didn't come out to vote.
Very strong comments there in terms of the views and the splitting of the vote. Winford, would you say that the UNC is likely to use this split vote campaign in 2015?
It's part of their
DNA.
wealth and shang, their DNA, their outlook, the way they behave. And we have seen no signs that they are going to depart from it. It is possible that they could depart from it, but there are no signs that they are going to depart from it.
So it's likely to still play a part once we see elections called for 2015.
Except, you know, the party undergoes a transformation, a renovation that brings in new blood, more credible, new blood, more credible voices. But I'm not holding my breath.
No.
Okay. And in terms of that transformation, Mary, you spoke about it earlier. You alluded to it. You alluded to the need to bring in new faces to make significant changes. Mr. Warner, when he had his initial split with the UNC, he made the call. In fact, he identified names that he said should be removed, should be changed, should be replaced. And you saw the steadfast refusal by the Prime Minister or the powers that be in the party to make any such changes. Do you think in light of these results, there would be a stronger call or a stronger pull towards making that type of significant change?
I think there ought to be, but is there really a party? Is the UNC an election machinery? Is the UNC a party? Does it have structures where they debate the issues and the policies? Unless they have that kind of party, then it could go on like this for the next 18 months, which we hope that it doesn't do, that it actually sits back, reflects, makes some changes, especially within the structure of the cabinet, because it is obvious that the people are not happy with the governance and the structure of governance at the moment.
Okay, well, let's go to a place where people are obviously happy. It's at Balizé House, and the celebrations there are continuing.
Yes, I'm actually not at Balizé House, but at the St. Joseph constituency office for the PNM. As you can see behind me, I'm surrounded by a sea of red. Mr. Deyalsingh there, doing an interview with another media house together with Dr. Rowley. Mr. Rowley has said that there's a serious questions that this government needs to answer, and they're going to be putting them forward to the Integrity Commission to look into. In the meanwhile, the mood is just celebratory, victory. One gentleman who's with his mop here. What's the reason for the mop? What's the reason for the mop? What's the reason for the mop?
The UNC, the partnership.
I guess he's mopping up the partnership. So, celebration here. Coco, Calypsonian is entertaining the crowd here, and the celebrations are expected to last long into the hours of the morning here as more and more people continue to gather here. Reporting live from St. Joseph constituency office from the victorious candidate, Mr. Deyalsingh's camp, Marcus and TV6 News.
No partner, here we go with you.
Good to go there?
Welcome back to TV6's election night coverage of the St. Joseph by-election. Well, a quick check at social media once again. They all have some jokes and some comments on here. Quick note, Joel Brown from TV6 reported that the Prime Minister should be speaking momentarily at the UNC's headquarters in Aranguez. So we'll stay tuned for that. Jillian Empress tweeted, that's what the... I'll go to another tweet actually, because that tweet is not too TV friendly. Dresky tweeted, one thing about Trini peeps, they don't want any more changes. Tell the PP called off that hunt, we. Again, that's some rules directed at Ian Allen, the losing candidate. We're yet to see him as well, and we're also checking on social media. People are kind of saying, the hunt is off, it's wetting after wetting for Ian Allen, mop up that wetting. So, I mean, Ian Allen is coming in for a good dose of old Trini Pecan, as you can say, on social media. And again, as more people are expressing their views, we see Kedrine Paul tweets, I hope I'll return with this panel in 15 to 18 months time. Best panel ever. So we got to say congrats to our panel here at TV6. You guys getting kudos on Twitter. That's right. So quick look at social media. People are chiming in. Some people are pleased with the results. Some people are saying it's about time the results are just. Of course, we have People's Partnership supporters saying that the party has some time to rebuild in time for the general election. So mixed reviews, but I can tell you for sure the DNA is still getting slinged, as well as Ian Allen is being, as they put it, wetted and wetting after wetting on Twitter. Martin, you guys ready over there?
Oh, yes, certainly.
Back to you guys.
And Slem, I'm sure you would have also checked on Ian's Facebook page, because I recall while his show was at its peak, he made lots of references to his Facebook page. So it would be interesting if at some point you can get some feedback to see what he's saying, what people are commenting on his Facebook page in terms of the social media. Because we all have to be aware that when you look at it in terms of election campaign and election coverage and the feedback from the general public, we must take into account what people are saying in cyberspace, because there's so many persons who would not use the traditional forms of media to communicate, but there's a whole world out there where persons share and exchange their views, and it's always interesting to get a pulse for what is really happening, what people are really thinking out there. So we'd look forward to that update from you. In terms of the use of social media in election campaigns, Dr. James, do you see any future for that in any significant or meaningful way in Trinidad and Tobago?
Oh yes, most definitely. Lots of people are part of Facebook, part of Google+, LinkedIn, Flickr. There are so many. People are using the platform. In fact, the conversations that are taking place on those media seem to be replacing face-to-face conversations. I mean, the topics that are discussed when you come face-to-face, there's a certain anonymity that is associated with these comments. And of course, you can use your blog names, and so you're not easily identifiable. But it's a way to go. Everybody almost, has a smartphone, and the data plans apparently are, encourage easy access. It started some time now, and it's going to continue. It's going to affect the choice of political party and all of that. That's happening. It's a way, of course, of bringing pressure on the party, on the various parties, to realize that people are smarter than they have given them credit for in the past. So it's really a barometer of the thinking of people at any given point in time.
Mary, you saw
the
use of
the young people are very, very into social media. If you don't use it, you'll really have not captured 50% of them. So you really need to get involved in it.
Okay, well, let's hear what young Om Lala had to say a short while ago.
In the speech I heard coming from the political leader, which I think was full of sentiments, while true perhaps, and while they may need to be kept in the public mind, that the context, the occasion was the wrong occasion in which to republicize them. I think that Mr. Deyalsingh did a far better job.
And in
that
terms
regard,
of your view of Mr. Deyalsingh's speech, Mary?
Just like his campaign, well thought out, sober, clean, to the point. So I admire that. And none of the abuse that we hear from some of the other people.
So we can hope that this now signals a start, possibly, of the beginning of a change in the tone and the rhetoric that we get on the political campaign trail, or do you think this is an isolated case here in St. Joseph?
Well, I think from all the behavior, the bad behavior, and the ill thought out discussions that have gone on the platforms, and the results that we've seen tonight, I think it should come over to those who are the leaders that we have to rethink how we approach our public, because those days are done if ever they were here. I am here 50 years and I've never heard the kind of slander and abuse on any platform as I've heard in the last 2 elections here in Trinidad, and it's not acceptable. And I think the people understand it's not acceptable, and therefore they went towards the candidates that they thought were clean and sober and serious about the issues in the country. I think what we need to put on the table before we close this election debate is that there's another seat sitting vacant in the front benches of the opposition, and really and truly, although the PNM have won a seat, there's really a seat not working for them. And is it time that we now say, okay, time now to fill that seat with an elected candidate, because it looks like the candidate that's sitting there is not in a position to fill the space.
Oh, you mean the candidate that's not sitting there?
It's not there. He's not in a position to fill the space, and should we not be planning for the filling of that space?
Okay, and Winford, if you were to consider the effect of the Dear Jack and the Dear Keith letters, did they have the effect that the advertisers hoped for, or is it possible that they could have had a negative effect backfiring on the persons who put them out?
Were there two kinds of letters?
Yes, there was a Dear Jack letter and a Dear Keith letter. And a Dear Jack and Keith letter. There was a third one that
saw the Dear Jack letter.
The Dear Jack letter was written with, you had a red background at times. Then you had the Dear Keith letter with a green background, and then a Dear Jack and Keith letter with a yellow background.
Well, ultimately, and by ultimately I mean given the results, right? It turns out that it backfired for those who wrote to Jack. The people who wrote to Jack, thinking that their people would see that the ILP, right, with the connivance of Keith, of the PNM, was going to split the vote. It turns out that the thing backfired because they were not taken on sufficiently to allow a result of the UNC winning the seat. I don't know about the other letter.
Yes. And just
it's difficult to follow this.
Around the same
I suppose
the same issue. It's the same issue. And just to let
it's difficult to pay attention to these things.
We're still hoping to hear from the UNC camp to get some statement from them. Your views on the appropriateness or the propriety, Mary, of those letters and using them as advertising tools in a political campaign?
Well, first of all, they weren't honest letters. They were conniving letters and hoping that they would influence a certain percentage of the population in St. Joseph. Well, it didn't. So I think it backfired, to use your words. I think it definitely backfired.
Okay, all right, we will take a break, and when we come back, hopefully we will be going to the UNC to hear from them what their thoughts are.
Set phasers to fun. One big fight. I'm a callous egomaniac. She's gonna leave me.
No, she won't.
No, she won't. I'm great. Leads to another. Prepare yourself.
You really think we're gonna fight?
On TV's #1 comedy. My fists are not up here because I'm milking a giant invisible cow.
The Big Bang Theory is in the Comedy Tuesday lineup at 8:30 p.m. on CCN TV6.
The biggest episode in the history of Dallas.
Things with JR were almost never as they appeared to be.
Brings all your favorites back for the funeral of J.R. Ewing. And you'll never guess who gets the last word.
I came to pay my disrespects and good riddance.
Got this, cousin.
John Ross Ewing and Christopher Ewing stand toe-to-toe in Dallas, Friday at 8 p.m. on CCN TV6.
I just do this fast enough. 5 minutes instead of cutting it off. Good.
Yes, and viewers, we are back with our coverage of the St. Joseph by-election. As you know, the result has come in. Terence Deyalsingh of the PNM is the winner. The second was the candidate for the UNC, and third in the vote count was Mr. Om Lala of the ILP. Of course, in our electoral system, which is a first-past-the-post system, there's no prize for second place. There's no prize for third place. It's winner take all. And Mary has tried to make a very strong case for proportional representation. But Mary, how realistic is that in terms of it actually happening here in Trinidad and Tobago for general elections?
What you've implied by that question is that we've been fooling the people for the last 10 years.
Well, the
because
issue has
we've
been
had
raised.
2 or 3 sessions over the years of going out to the public and coming up with a document for constitutional reform. Then it reverted to a group being handed, Mr. Ramadar, being handed the job of going back out to the people and talking to the people. So he has been talking to the people and giving them the impression that we are going to have constitutional reform. So I am mesmerized by your question. How could you ask, is it real? You're telling me that this is another farce that they're pulling on the population. So I am hoping that we are serious and that we will have constitutional reform and that we will get into the more democratic state where more people will have participation in our parliament, and therefore we demand new constitution with proportional representation and with control of the financing of political parties.
And you're aware that Winford disagrees in terms of any realistic chance of that happening before 2015?
That's a view.
Yes,
that cannot be the only view.
Of course not.
So therefore, the people have to advise.
Yeah. Yes, but it's more than that. My position in matters is far more
he bases his
extensive
information and experience and statistics and what has actually happened. In other words, we've been speaking about this for years and years and years, and nothing has happened. What then gives the public the hope that it is going to happen in time for 2015?
Which is quite apart from the suitability of the replacement model. Which model should replace what we have now? And that calls for a certain...
Where the people come into play.
Yes, yes, I know. But the people have given views over time. Yes. And now we have to collate the views and see, you know, what percentage of views seem to be in the ascendancy and so on. And then, of course, there's the Tobago connection.
But let's do it.
Yes, there's a Tobago connection, and yes.
Okay, well, we are now getting a live shot of the UNC camp, and there we see Minister Ganga at the microphone. So let's hear what they have to say.
Thank you very much. All right. Thank you very much, members of the media, and to the listening public, to our supporters of the United National Congress. Honorable Prime Minister Kamla Prasad Bisesa and leader of the People's Partnership, my cabinet colleagues, and our UNC candidate for St. Joseph, Mr. Ian Leslie Allen. Tonight, we concede a very narrow victory for the PNM. We concede that victory, and we wish the new Member of Parliament for St. Joseph, Mr. Terence Deyalsingh, all the best in his future endeavors as the MP for St. Joseph, albeit it will only be for 18 months because the UNC will come back with a resurgence. To take St. Joseph in 2015. It is clear that the results indicate that it is the split vote. It is the vote for the ILP of 1986 that prevented our candidate, Ian Allen, from becoming the next Member of Parliament for the constituency of St. Joseph under the banner of the UNC. So tonight, we also celebrate the resurgence of the UNC. From our victory in the local government elections. So, from our victory in the local government elections in 5 corporations, to within an arm's length of victory in St. Joseph, and wait not for the split vote, your member of parliament would have been Ian Leslie Allen. It is clear that the ILP is now politically dead. It is clear that they can only play the role of a spoiler. And tonight, we are here to really celebrate with our team of activists and campaign team who participated in this very short, swift, and intense campaign. I want to thank this campaign team. As caretaker of this constituency, I intend to hold this team together because we have an election to win in 2015. And we will demonstrate that, spoiler or no spoiler, we will demonstrate how we are going to beat the PNM in 2015. At this juncture, I call upon my colleague, the Deputy Political Leader of the United National Congress, the Honorable Dr. Rudal Munilal, to make remarks. Dr. Munilal.
Thank you very much, Senator Ganga Singh, the Honorable Prime Minister, Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar, Cabinet and parliamentary colleagues, officers of the United National Congress, supporters, members of the press, and the thousands and thousands of supporters of the UNC listening to this broadcast, and of course, our very charismatic, energized, and brilliant candidate, Mr. Ian Allen. Friends and supporters, today the United National Congress has shown that at midterm, our government and our political party held firm. We want to thank those almost 6,000 citizens of St. Joseph who stood tall today and faithful to the United National Congress and cast their vote for the UNC. We also want to congratulate the Honorable Political Leader, Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar, for her leadership in this campaign. Mrs. Persad-Bissessar, our political leader, said and warned the citizens about the risk of splitting the vote. So said, so done. Sometimes people take longer to hear and longer to act. But tonight, we have crushed the ILP and we have crushed Jack Warner. So if you were never sure about it now, you're sure about it tonight that the Queen truly hung a Jack today. And because we were doing that, somebody got away. So we have temporarily loaned this seat to the PNM, but in 2015, this seat will return to the United National Congress. I want you to also remember, it was just about 4 months ago, not too long, 4 months ago, that the ILP won the seat of Chaguanas West, which many believe to be one of the safest seats. The ILP won that 4 months ago. They won almost 3-1. Today we defeated them 3-1 in St. Joseph. In fact, if this was local government election, Prime Minister, the ILP couldn't even win the alderman today. So we have to congratulate you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for remaining faithful to the United National Congress. Thank you for your strength, your support, your energy, and your commitment. If you are sure about one thing in the world, you are sure that we will rise. And you are sure that in 2015, we are now prepared and we are energized and we are committed to returning to government and to taking St. Joseph away from the People's National Movement. So be strong tonight, be strong and be confident. After what we have been through tonight is by a few hundred votes, a mere few hundred votes, that this seat went to the PNM. And when you look at the ILP, you will see where the mere few hundred votes were. That was their job.